I was looking for you. I don't see some of my the normal reporters. We're not making news today? Y'all come on in. Good morning. Are y'all all ready? Well, good morning. Thank y'all for being here. This is really information in a press conference we thought about doing last year, but it wouldn't be as meaningful because you'd have to explain it to people and they really wouldn't see it for 8 or 9 months. Now they're going to see it directly, right? Because tax season is upon us. And so this is important to understand. When people file taxes this year, they are going to get a bigger refund. We've been saying that since the tax reform session that we held, and we kept telling people that we have delivered, which we have, the largest tax cut in the history of the state. We did it with the help of the legislature. Of course, now Chief of Staff Julie Emerson was Chair Ways and Means. We now have Tony Bacala, who is going to be chairing up Ways and Means. These are two individuals who, along with many others, have worked for years to try to improve Louisiana's tax policy. And of course, they're joined by another former legislator and then former Revenue Secretary, Richard Nelson, who is now charged with making sure that our workforce can meet the economic opportunities that we're having today. Again, what they did, what I taxed Richard with when he was at Revenue, was go work with the legislature, tell me the things that y'all been trying to do, and let's come up with a plan to do that. Because for too long, Louisiana was stuck at the bottom of states in the country from a tax policy and a business environment. And for too long, Louisiana families were paying more taxes than they needed to. They'd watch their paycheck disappear into taxes. And so we just said, enough is enough, and we're going to fix this. And so I called the legislature in a special session, and we got to work, and we delivered it. And this year, this tax season, it's going to be like every Louisiana citizen is going to hit the lottery because their paychecks, their refunds are going to be real and going to go up. And so we delivered to them the largest income tax cut, as I said, in the history of this state. And that is real. It's not in a spreadsheet, but it's actually going to be in their wallet. Right now, families are going to keep even more of all of their paychecks, and they're going to see bigger refunds this tax season. So let me explain how this works. So a typical middle-class working family will save nearly $500 this year. I mean, think about that. That's the amount of maybe one car payment. That's the amount of 10 tanks of gas. That's the amount of a week's or 2 weeks worth of grocery. The average working individual is going to save about $261. That's a big amount for a working individual. All because we increased the standard deduction, eliminated the income tax for our lowest earners, and lowered our rate to among the lowest in the country. Right now, Louisiana has the second lowest income tax rate in the country. And so let me walk you through this. First, we eliminated the income tax for the working poor by tripling the standard deduction to $12,500. And so Louisiana families now get their first $25,000 of income completely tax-free. That means fewer families are owing taxes. More families are saving money and keeping that money in their pocket. More money that gets to go to groceries, gas, rent, and school supplies. And so while inflation in the past has eaten into their pocket, and it was like a double whammy, you'd have groceries going up, and you were paying high taxes. Today, we're starting to see inflation fall, and guess what? They're saving on taxes as well. Second, Louisiana, as I said earlier, Louisiana is the second lowest personal income tax in the entire country. We now have a flat 3%. And let me just say this to the media out there. I don't know how my good friend Tate Reeves got away with it. I know that y'all would never let me get away with saying that I eliminated the income tax or I lowered the income tax if we would get to 3% by 2030, which is how Mississippi is. And there were big headlines in all the papers that Mississippi eliminates the income tax. They don't get to 3% until 2030. We're at 3% today. We also delivered real relief for our seniors by doubling the retirement income exemption to $12,000 and combining that with the standard deduction. A married couple over 65 can now earn nearly, listen to this, can now earn nearly $49,000 tax-free. So for the average senior citizen, that's $350 back in their pocket. That's thousands of dollars staying in retirement budgets every single year. Fourth, we've made Louisiana one of the most competitive states in America for business investment. You wonder why we almost have $100 billion worth of economic development going on? Why? I'm serious, like, I don't even have room to put all of the shovels that we're using to break ground in this state right now. It is literally, it's historic. I mean, you know, and used to be like $100 million was a big investment, and we'll take $100 million, okay? Now, we announce projects, not in billions anymore, like in tens of billions of dollars. We've moved out of the bottom 10 in the national rankings, jumping to number 31 overall. We broke into the top 10 for corporate tax competitiveness by eliminating the franchise tax, lowering the corporate income tax to a flat 5.5%. And just 5 years ago, that corporate income tax was 8%. That is the reason that we're seeing historic investment into the state. And that investment, again, I think it's important that the citizens understand that that investment translates into jobs. We've got over 124,000 new job opportunities. And if you're not skilled in one of those jobs, you go see Richard. He's going to fix you up, right? Because that's what he's tasked to do. And so finally, we made sure, and I think this is important as well, we made sure that inflation can't quietly raise your taxes anymore. So going forward, the standard deduction will automatically rise each year, so families keep more of their paychecks, even if prices at the pump go up. So for 2026 alone, that means an additional $375 of income that will be tax-free. This reform is permanent relief. It's not a one-time gimmick. And let me be clear, we're just getting started. We just submitted a standstill budget. We just implemented, we just reported that DOGE effort and then implemented that with a new Inspector General and Office of Government Efficiency so that we can create more efficiencies and streamline government, thereby trying to return more money to our taxpayers and invest in our infrastructure. We're going to keep reforming. We're going to keep building the economy so that people can get ahead, so that we lift people from dependence to independence, so that Louisiana can continue, which we finally have started a couple of years ago, seeing people come into the state rather than leaving the state. So the 2024 tax special session wasn't just politics or policy. It was a promise, and families are seeing it delivered right now. So with that, I would like to introduce Tony Bacala, our new chair of Ways and Means, who can say a few words.
Hello, Governor.
Hey, Tony.
Thank y'all for having us here today. It's an important, let me tell you, you don't realize, we sit here, we talk about these things as though there's some academic study. Everything we say today directly impacts every single person that lives in this state. This is not an academic study. This is a family who goes out and earns a living and gets to keep more of their money. Think about that. And look, let me tell you, this doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't. This is a plan being implemented, the fruition of which is making everybody in this state just a little bit richer, giving them just a little bit more buying power. And you think about how hard the journey that got us here. I've been in the legislature for 10 years. The journey that got us here. 10 years ago, do you remember? Do you remember 10 years ago when we were $1 billion, and some say $2 billion in the hole? We couldn't afford to pay our bills. And there were painful cuts to things that are important to families like TOPS. That's just kind of the opposite. If suddenly I'll have to pay a portion of my tuition, that's less money in my pocket. We had to make painful cuts. And unfortunately, there were painful tax increases. And I'll say my colleague and former chair, we were voted into the party of no because we didn't vote for all those taxes. We said we need to find the cuts. But we weren't working real hard at that. Nobody, they had some of us individually were, but not a lot were. And we went through 8 years. We need more taxes this year. We can cut a little bit next year. We can work on this. We can work. It was very random. It was very random and reactive. And let me tell you, the worst thing, if you want industry growth, if you want business to come to Louisiana, you can't have that. What does industry look for? They want to know when they're coming to Louisiana, this is what my tax rate's going to be for the next 10 years. When there's instability and you don't know if it's going to be 8 or 9 or 4 or 5 when you talk to sales tax and income tax, they just will rather look at one of our competitor states and say, you know what, they've got their stuff together over there. And quite frankly, we didn't. And now, guess what? We do. We have a plan to move forward. We have goals set. We have a buy-in from the governor's leadership, the leadership of the House and Senate, the membership that's all rowing in the same direction with the governor being the rudder. And we have started to deliver, and we've only started to deliver. We've delivered, and the governor mentioned income tax. That was big. I can tell you last night, my wife and I did our income taxes. Last year I had to pay something. This year I got something back. Simple. I think every family doing their income tax will see the same thing that I saw last night. A little bit money in my pocket that was going to the state coffers. And let me tell you, success. We all know this. Success breeds success, right? When companies around the world, used to say around the country, but companies around the world look at Louisiana, and they see Meta, and they see Hyundai, and they see this company and that company, they look at them and say, wow, there must be something going on right there. So you heard the term in the crosshairs. We're in the good crosshairs. People look out, see where growth is happening, success breeds success, and they're looking at us and saying they must be doing something right. So they're giving us a second look and a third look, and then they're coming here. You know, we were proud. We had $10 billion in investment. Now we're 70, 80 billion, Governor?
Almost 100.
You know what that means? That means all those companies are coming here. They're going to be part of our tax base. And as the tax base grows with all this great industry and the great jobs they produce, it's going to give us the ability to continue to make the progress in lowering our income tax and other taxes as well. Success brings success, and all those, when those facilities start employing people and putting more money into the economy, we're going to feel it. Everyone in this state, not just the guy who lives in the parish where the plant is located, everybody will feel it. Our school systems will benefit from that cash. Let me tell you, there's a lot going on right now, a whole lot. We've got a plan that benefits the people. Part of that plan says, let me save $275, $280 million a year. Who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want to say, is there a way where we pay less taxes but have $275, $280 million more to pay, to use? That's going to be a constitutional amendment. We need it. It's common sense. Pay down debt, save on interest payments, reutilize that money for the good purposes of the state. And if I can pay, name it, if I can pay for the support of Department of Health or anybody else through a savings rather than a tax, which one would you want to pay it with? We need that. It's important. It means also that teachers will have a permanent pay raise, not something that's year to year. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give a lot of credit to the governor. I give a lot of credit to my speaker, Philip DeVilliers, to the president of the House, of the Senate, Cameron, and particularly to my predecessor on Ways and Means, Miss Julie Emerson, who, you know, one thing I don't like about the governor, he keeps stealing the best talent. And Julie was such a talent. And one day we're all, you know, talking about tax policy. The next day she sends out this little email, says, I'm gone. I am now the chief of staff. But let me tell you what that tells you. Richard's another guy that was stolen from the legislature, sort of. He didn't want to come back. But you know, when the governor goes out and finds talent like Richard Nelson, and he finds talent like Julie Emerson, he has seen them work. He knows their heart. He knows where they see the vision. And he goes and grabs the best, we would say the best and the brightest, and pulls them into his team. And you get their knowledge and their experience, but you also get their relationships that they've built in the legislature for years and years that just is kind of compounds the value. So to the governor, to President Henry, to Speaker DeVilliers, and 105 members of the House of Representatives, 35 members of the Senate, we're pulling together, and we're pulling together for every man, woman, and child in this state. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. He could have said young, too, according to me and Tony, right? The brightest and the youngest, right? Is that, unfortunately, it's me and you in the same. Right, right. Also, I want to recognize our new Secretary of Revenue, Jared Caniglio and Catherine Logan, who are here. They're now tasked. We continue to find ways under which we can improve our tax policy to further improve Louisiana's tax position. And we're going to do that. And I think that Tony hit on something that I think is important as well. While our citizens go out and see real money back into their pocket, they should recognize that on the ballot this year is an opportunity to give us the tools necessary to further that tax reduction, to find more ways, the flexibility to find more ways to put more money in their pocket and give teachers a permanent pay raise that they deserve. No longer is it going to be one-time gimmicks. Voters have an opportunity to do that in May and improve Louisiana's tax position, because Amendment 3 and 4 help us eliminate the inventory tax and also pay off massive amounts of retirement debt and give teachers a permanent pay raise as well. And so with that, I'll take any questions that the press may have. Yes?
I just want to make sure I'm getting this correct. So there is a slight increase for the lowest tax bracket, right? Because it went from 1.85 to the standard rate of 3. But you have the exemption, so they won't see that increase. Is that correct?
What I would tell you is that we had these three, and Richard, or you want to handle it? I mean, let me get, I'll let Richard.
Yeah, so we used to have multiple brackets, I think is what you're talking about. We used to have multiple brackets, but the lowest bracket basically went to $12,500. And so because we raised the standard deduction to $12,500, then their rate is essentially zero. So they won't pay the 3% rate.
Governor, Chairman Bacala talked about this with the expanding of the business tax base. What concerns, if any, you talked about efforts with DOGE, the revamped IG's office to streamline state government. There are some areas that are likely to see growth in spending, whether that be healthcare or education. Aside from the business tax base growth, how would you address those additional spending needs?
Look, we will. I think we do it based upon a priority. I think that those are the things that we have to work through. We know that if we grow the economy, that revenue coming into the state is going to continue to grow. We've seen it. I mean, we cut taxes and we've got more revenue coming in. We believe that that revenue will continue, and then we'll be able, the legislature will be able to prioritize whether, what areas may require some particular growth. I would venture to say that everyone out there would love to have a brand new road and would like to fix the bridges that we have. And that's another thing that we've done. This legislature is spending historic amounts of money on infrastructure. We've got a $19 billion backlog, and we've got great projects going on. And guess what? We haven't raised revenue as well. So that really shows Louisiana citizens that we have been extremely prudent with their tax dollars, on top of giving them a tax cut as well. Fair? Yes?
Won't the high sales taxes offset the lower personal income tax?
No, they don't. And I think here's something that is misleading. This state of Louisiana, the only thing that we can control in this building is the state sales tax. If you look at just what the state sales tax is in Louisiana, it is one of the lowest in the country. Now, what happens is that you compound that or you add to that local sales tax. We can't control that. That's voters out there and what they want to give their local governments. So no, what we can control here in this building, which we have, has delivered for our citizens the largest tax cut in the history of the state. Yes, ma'am.
I have a Department of Corrections question. Governor Landry, are you pleased with the fight against contraband, and are you okay with the amount of overdoses that are occurring in the Department of Corrections prisons?
Look, I worked in a jail, and that's not an easy job, right? I don't think that our Department of Corrections is loosening their enforcement policy to try to move contraband into our prisons. They're doing everything we can to try and keep contraband out of the prisons. In fact, what we've seen is that criminals, I mean, it's some pretty clever people, have resorted to things like dropping things in the prisons using drones. Of course, we're trying to increase technology so that we can both detect and mitigate drone activity over our prisons. We're trying to increase the amount of scanners that we have in there. But I do not believe that the secretary nor anyone working underneath him are purposely trying to relax the policy so that contraband is coming into the jail. It's a tough place to work. I mean, first of all, think about who you're dealing with. These are people who are in there because they figured out a way to break the law. And so, it's not an easy job that those folks at DOC have, and I know that they're working towards trying to eliminate that. They want to protect people who are in the jail as well, and overdoses that are happening in there are a result of gaps in enforcement that we're trying to address.
Anyone else? Last question.
Yeah.
Governor, can you share anything about what some of the broad policy priorities you're looking at pushing forward during the regular legislative session?
Look, I think that what we're going to be doing is continuing to expand upon ways that we can improve the overall business climate in Louisiana, right? Of course, we're not in a fiscal session, which means we can't really do any additional tax reform. We're going to be working on, in fact, I'm meeting in a couple of days with the legislative leadership, and we're going to try to prioritize those things. For me, we're focused on the budget, trying to make sure that we continue to keep a tight ship as we get to the May elections, which I think is extremely, again, important, because I think the amendments, certainly 3 and 4 that are on the ballot, we want to make sure that the citizens understand, give the legislature even more flexibility to do more with their money, including giving them an additional tax cut as well. Okay. Thank you all.
Took some notes, but I didn't read them.